Welcome, everyone, to Remembering the Truth of Who We Are. I'm your host, Jocelyn Mercado, and I'm so excited today to introduce Dakota Chanel. Welcome, Dakota.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
So happy to have you here with us. So let me just go ahead and read your bio and introduce you a bit for those who may not already know you. Dakota Chanel is an ordained water priestess, poet, mystic, and healer. She is dedicated to the remembrance of feminine ecstatic wisdom, restoring balance upon our sacred earth. She knows in every cell of her being that we are children of the most beautiful love story in the universe, and she devotes her life as inspiration for humanity to remember how loved they are. We must heal our sexuality to heal our world. She supports people in opening their hearts to love and embodied wholeness through individual sessions in person and over Skype, as well as through workshops and retreats. Dakota lives barefoot in dresses, picking wild fruit, and celebrating the magic of life on the island of Kauai. Beautiful, beautiful. And
It's so funny. I've never had my bio read to me. It's so different hearing it read aloud.
yeah, I think it expresses your personality so well. This is lovely.
Thank you.
So I'm so excited to talk with you today about your topic, We Are Water.
Mm,
And I would love to begin by just asking you if you could tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to be doing this work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So excited to share and be here with you today and everyone on the call.
Thank you.
Yeah, my personal journey has been such a journey, such a wild and mythical ride. But I would say that I really started coming into the magic of water in my teens. And I've always loved the water, but I remember this really specific moment where I was in the Caribbean with the boy that I was dating at the time. I was 16. And it was such a just tumultuous relationship. I was so depressed and just so sad and sexually shut down and just struggling. And I remember standing in the middle of the waters of the Caribbean, and all of a sudden I saw the sun streaming light sparkles on the just Gatorade blue colored water all around me. And this feeling of pure ecstasy just coursed through my being. And I remember being like, this is who I am. This is my truth. This is my essence. And in that moment, I just felt like I'd been given such a gift by the water. And so that really sparked this curiosity about and this intense love for the water, just like this devotion, and realizing that when I'm in the water, whether it's hot springs or the river or the ocean, I feel like myself. I feel like more at home than I do walking around on land. And so what ended up happening is I went to New Zealand after high school and did a whole soul searching backpacking journey by myself, and came to the conclusion that even though I felt like I needed to go to university and all these things, that I was actually drawn to the healing arts and working with women on healing sexual trauma. So I came back to Colorado and started working at a hot springs. And it was so magical to work with the water in that way. And then one day, this person came in and she said, we offered massage and different spa treatments. And she said, do you guys offer Watsu? And I was like, Watsu? What's that? Like, it sounds like some kind of sushi, you know? So I immediately said no, but then I looked it up on the computer. I was so intrigued and I pulled it up. And as soon as I saw a picture of this woman floating another woman in the water, I had this ancient remembrance that came over me. It was just like, whew, that is the closest thing that I've seen on this planet to what it is that I'm supposed to do. And so I looked into different schools. And at that point, I thought I would move to the Big Island because there's a beautiful aquatic bodywork community there. But I wanted to become a licensed massage therapist first. And so I wanted to do that in Oregon because it was the highest standards in a state that I want to live in. So anyway, crazy adventure, 3-month road trip, just end up there, no money, flying by the seat of my pants. That's a whole other story. But what happened is I went to the goddess temple, and there just happened to be a meditation being led by a beautiful woman named Jumana Sophia. And I met her and I told her that I just moved to town and my intention was to get licensed in massage and then move to Hawaii to study aquatic bodywork. And she looked at me and she said, "No way, are you serious? I just opened a aquatic bodywork pool at my home. And I actually teach the mystical realms of the water." So she teaches aquatic bodywork, but through the representation of the water as the divine feminine and the priestess arts of the goddess. So little did I know. So it's called Aqua Mystica Ministries. So I ended up moving in with her and living and studying with her for 2 years. And it was, completely meant to be. And that's just one example of infinite that I have of when you don't follow what you think you should do. You follow that voice in your heart and your soul that you're always taken care of, and that magic and miracles happen. So I studied in the water for 2 years, and I sat in her and I danced in her and I learned healing modalities in her and I listened to her and I became immersed in her. And what I realized is that she is me and I am her. And we are all the water. We are the water. And it's even scientifically proven that at the molecular level, our bodies are 99% water. So we're literally these moving oceans just walking around, and we appear solid because of our lens of perception. But when you really break it down, understanding water helps us to understand ourselves. And we've just entered into the age of Aquarius, so the water bearer, the remembrance of the divine feminine. We've lived in this age of distortion between the masculine and the feminine with this submissive, suppressed feminine essence and this domesticated way of life. And the water teaches us and is the medicine for the healing of that split and the unification of humanity. So then once I finished studying with her, I was studying cranial sacral therapy. I was actually 2 years into that, or it was a 2-year training. And then literally out of the blue, Kauai started calling me. It was like everywhere I turned, Hawaii, 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 Hawaii. It was just flashing at me. I'm like, okay, this is getting a little bit freaky. I think that I have to go to Hawaii. So I just knew it needed to be Kauai. So for my birthday, I actually turned 23 on the 23rd of May. So it was my golden birthday. And I knew that I wanted to come here by myself and have a magical journey. So I put my notice in at my job. I had such a office job. I was making restaurant menus like on the computer all day. And I left and I came here. And I can't even begin to describe to you like the amount of magic that happened. I started having visions, like without, just completely sober, just visions and mystical occurrences and things that were so outside of my realm of normal, but felt so right inside of me that I was changed forever. And when the time came for me to leave, I was sobbing. I was hysterical. I was like, I can't leave. I'm finally home. Finally home. After so long. And one of the most special parts about being here during that time was the connection that I had with the waters on this island. So the ocean spoke to me, and Makaleha waterfall spoke to me, had a very special connection with her. And I started to realize the different consciousness that different bodies of water have. It's kind of like how in our body we have the cerebral spinal fluid, and we have the blood, and we have the Amrita fluid. We have all these different kinds of water that flow through us. It's the same in the external world. So anyway, I went back. I had to go back. I was only on vacation for a week, right? So I went back, and then I thought, oh, it wasn't that great. I'll just stay here. I'm so comfortable. I do love my life. Literally the next day, everything just crumbled. The water temple, we had to move everything. It was like crazy. And so I knew. And so I packed up all my stuff. I had another crazy adventure before then, but basically I moved here. I moved to Kauai with my 2 suitcases with absolutely nothing. I slept on the beach for a month and a half, and I've been here for 2 years, and it's been miraculous. I'm so grateful. And since I moved here, I actually did a 6-month doula training. So I was studying with the element of birth and the Divine Mother. And then since being here, I was actually able to be at 2 births and to watch beings come through the womb into the world. And so that's a bit of the backstory to what's gotten me to this point in time.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think, what you said, I had chills so many different times while you were speaking about the synchronicities and the magic of what was leading you. It's just so beautiful, and it's really what your listening is just such a testament to how important it is, because so many times we just turn away from those knowings that we have, or we turn away from the synchronicities that keep coming our way, and it's just so important to respond.
It is, because that's when you actually start living. Because in this world, we're taught that a false kind of living, a stale kind of living, and it's not living from your soul, it's living from conditioning. My soul's told me to do crazy things, like move to Kauai with nothing. Everyone was like, you're not going to make it. You don't have any money. How are you going to get work? You don't know anybody. There's no houses there. Everything's taken. And it's not true. Don't listen to those voices. Don't listen, because all the negativity around you is a reflection of the voices that are inside of you. And that's actually a law of the water. It ties right in, because one of the things that water teaches us is she's a divine reflector. So when you look into a clear pool, you see yourself. So we're literally, as water, we're walking around as little mini raindrops, reflecting ourselves back to ourselves.
So beautiful. Yeah. And we're taught so many limitations and restrictions and rules and regulations, and when we can step outside of that, just have the courage, to go outside of that comfort zone and follow the calling, follow the golden threads, then we just have no idea of the magic that can really happen there when we're on.
None. I always say life plans my life better than I ever could. I have all these ideas and things. Half of them don't even work out, because there's this greater presence that directs my life that does a way better job than my small mind could.
I would love to hear you elaborate a little bit more on how water is connected to the divine feminine, and how as women we are just so deeply connected to water. I had an experience over the summer where it was a group of mostly women, and there were 2 men in the group. It was, I think, 9 women and 2 men. We were on a retreat in New Mexico, and there was this beautiful river it was very, very cold, right? And with some rapids going over some rocks. And there was this place where you could jump into the river and just let it carry you down and then come out on a beach. And it was freezing cold. And then there were hot springs next to it. So we would all women, it was amazing.
Oh my gosh, that sounds incredible.
It's incredible. Just such a magical place. And so all of the women, we started just jumping in, going down, and we were squealing and we were screaming cold, and it was so beautiful. And we'd jump out, jump in the hot pool, and then jump out and jump back in the cold. And it was, I felt like it was like a rebirth. It was just so powerful. And I felt like a new person as we were, taking the hike to go back. And even one of the men on the trip commented that later on that night, he said, I just could see how women are water and water is women. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, the connection of water and feminine and
Oh, that's such a beautiful story, Jocelyn. I just had so many raindrops when you were saying that. And it's true. Water brings out that childlike joy. You know, it brings out that playfulness, that innocence, that fluidity. And water literally is the divine mother. She is the element, because we are made of earth, we are made of the elements. So water is the portal onto this earth. Everyone got to this planet the exact same way, through sperm and an egg coming together in the waters of the womb and creating a baby. So literally your soul, your starlight was pulled not directly from light to land, but through the medium of the water, through the womb of your mother. So the womb is the waters of the divine feminine. And the womb is the human reflection of the oceans of our world. You know, there's even speculation, did humans come from the sea? And there's all these goddesses of antiquity that are associated with the water. Now, I don't know, some of you might know, but I also use the title Mermaid of the Magdalene. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Mary Magdalene and the Order of the Magdalene Priestesses, but basically there's a correlation, and I wrote an article on this. I can send a link to you if you would like to include it, but there's such a deep correlation between the waters and the ancient priestesses of the goddess. So there was actually a time on the earth when the waters of our bodies and of our wombs were revered, and as well as the external, the sacred wells, the sacred springs, and that we actually use the waters as ritualistically in temples, as both purifying, you know, in baptism rituals, and in it's like a medium for consciousness. So in a similar way to how float tanks work, how you lie in a float tank and it's sensory deprivation, using it as a way to access higher states of consciousness. Okay. Like some of the most deep states of consciousness that I've reached were actually receiving underwater aquatic body work. Because what happens is you kiss that space in between spirit and matter. Water is that feminine mystery. She's the void. She's the container, the holy chalice, the sacred well, the sea of love. And so the water and the divine mother, to me, are one and the same. Without water, there's no womb, there's no life, there's no seed, there's no sperm, there's no egg. Water is what makes all of this possible.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I love what you said about how, you know, we come through water to come into being as a human being.
Yeah, it's so amazing to witness, like the belly swell and the baby grow in the womb and swim in the amniotic fluid. And that's why it's so important. Like you're literally creating another human being out of your blood. And I believe that the healing of sexuality and birth and our relationship with water, at least for me, is the key to transforming the planet. Because when you purify the waters of your body and your blood and you learn to love yourself and be in loving resonance with your partner, the kind of being that comes through is
going to be
gift.
Connected and in touch with all of that. That's so very important. You know, our young people are our next leaders.
They're the key.
They're the next generation of leaders and they're going to have to make, you know, all of these even tougher decisions than our leaders are making right now. And if they can be coming from a place of deep connection and reverence for nature and reverence for water, you know, what a different world it will be.
Absolutely. I have chills all over as you say that. And recognizing that we need our children to be better than us. We need, not better in that egotistical way, but we need them to have access to genius ideas, like Einstein status ideas, and realizing that becoming pregnant is most divine and holy and sacred gift to this earth. And pregnancy is a disgrace in this modern age. It makes me so sad to see what's happened to sacred birthing upon this planet. And love making and creating a child is an art form. And the possibility is infinite. And when you're expecting a woman to give birth under hospital lights with drugs and noise, it's insane. That's like telling a woman to have an orgasm in those conditions. It's just not going to be smooth or easy.
Right.
Anyway, a bit of a side tangent. I'm so passionate about birth.
That's so important too. And I, for sure, I have 2 kids. They're 7 and 4, 2 daughters. And
Oh.
each of them being born launched me into an entirely new phase of my life. Each time it was just a sacred feminine awakening experience. So yes, I feel so strongly too about all that you're saying. Yeah. Well, I would love to talk about how can we connect with the waters of our bodies. How can we really feel that and strengthen that within us?
That's such a beautiful and important question. Thank you. Because that's really where the rubber meets the road. We can talk or listen to things like this, but it's really each of us doing our part. So, for me personally, and I encourage everyone to find their own unique and magical ways, but for me, it's all about awareness. So, doing my best to hold myself and look at myself as water, and to remember that water is so easily programmable. Dr. Emoto's work took pictures of the water crystals under the microscope. And when you say, I hate you, they're dark, ugly crystals. And you say, I love you, and they're beautiful light crystals. So literally becoming conscious, becoming awake, becoming aware as a human being, and watching your thoughts, realizing that literally the negative thoughts that you have about yourself are completely affecting you on a physical level, just based upon the simple fact that you're 99% water at the molecular level. So by holding yourself in kindness and love in your thoughts, by holding yourself in kindness and love in your heart, by diving into your womb and illuminating any of the pain or shadowy corners around your sexuality and embodying more forgiveness and love in those spaces, that transforms your individual water droplet. And the more people that do this, it's like a river being formed. A couple little raindrops fall, but then when all the raindrops come together and create the power of the river. And so creating this movement together of revering our bodies as these sacred water temples. So for me, those are the basics, right? Watching your thoughts, watching your emotions. It's the same as all spiritual traditions, with the slant of looking at yourself as the water. But another piece that I really love to bring up is being aware of the waters that you're allowing into your body. So recognizing that what you drink is very important. What you eat is very important. The people that you make out with, very important. The people that you make love with, very important. Because what's happening is literally a fluid transfer. So when you put something in your mouth, it's moving, it's becoming a part of you. You're making love with it. So do you want to make love with those Doritos, or do you want to make love with the apple? And looking and realizing that food in our culture, I won't go in very much into this, but food in our culture has become kind of a numbing agent for the disconnect with our souls. And so the more that we allow ourselves to drink healthy juices and to eat fresh and alive foods, the more fresh and alive that we feel and that we become. And same with the water, making sure that we're drinking water that's not hard with deposits. It doesn't have fluoride, chlorine, all these toxic chemicals right now with the pharmaceutical epidemic. And I mean, it's just crazy, right? So being very everything, we're living in a world that's saturated with toxins and chemicals. So it's your responsibility to purify your water temple, especially if you're going to create life from your blood. So yeah, the pieces around being aware of what you put in your body. And then my personal favorite is sexual fluids. So it's something that's taboo and not talked about really ever. But I feel like I'd like to touch on it at least a bit right now. And that's the power of your saliva and your sexual fluids. So saliva is more than just spit. You know, we so casually think about it. It's actually very sacred water. And it contains your DNA. Like I just sent in my spit sample to 23andMe. They could tell me where I was from, all the genetic health dispositions. It's amazing what you can tell from your DNA. So when you're making out with someone, you're literally exchanging DNA. You're exchanging water. So if you're exchanging DNA and water with someone that has a lot of toxins and, you know, karmas and things, I won't go too much into it, but just being aware, you know, being really making sure that when you are connecting with someone in those ways, that it's not coming from trying to fill a hole or a lack inside of you, that it's coming from an overflow of love, a love for yourself, a love for humanity, a love for this person, a love for life. That's where the magic is. And yeah, so those are some practical things. And then I have a ritual that I love to do with water. I try to do it every morning, and that's actually what I'll share later for the practice at the end. It's a beautiful tool. Oh, and there's just a few more things too. One is the power of sound. So actually the first schooling that I ever did was sound healing, even before I studied with the water. And what I realized is that sound is what programs the water, the vibration. And so if I were to put this singing bowl in the water and I were to ding it, I could actually see the water jumping and forming patterns. And so you can check out cymatics and look up the relevance of that. But one of the most practical ways that I like to use it to purify my water temple is with emotions. You know, if I'm feeling a stuck emotion, like I'm feeling anger or sadness or grief or something, I love to use my voice. And the connection between the voice and the womb is so deep. That's a whole other tangent. But what you can do is make sounds. So allow yourself to make sounds that are ugly, you know, allow yourself to be to feel what it is and to release it through the vibration, and what happens is that you actually feel your body vibrating. So you're reattuning the waters of your body with your own voice, and your own voice is the perfect medicine for you. In sound healing school, they taught that, you know, there's no substitute for your own voice because it has all the keys that you are already in it. So, and then another one's dance. I love to move my body. I love to shake it. It's like shaking water in a glass. You know, water gets stagnant. If water just sits there in a stagnant little pond, it'll get all icky and dirty. So you got to keep it fresh and keep it moving and keep it playful and splashing and having fun. And one of my favorite ways to do that is dancing.
Yeah, that is so important because we have these systems in our body, and especially like our lymph system, where it doesn't move unless we move, right?
Exactly.
And it gets stagnant, and that's where a lot of the disease comes from that we're seeing these days. So yes, dance movement is so powerful, and thinking about it on the level of the water that we are just makes it so clear, you know?
It makes it fun.
Yeah.
It makes it less of oh, I have to exercise. Oh, I have to eat right. Oh, I have to blah, 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 blah. You know, and it's I'm water. I'm magical. The more that I take care of the waters of my body, I'm actually helping to save the earth. Yeah. And I'm supporting everybody. It creates a completely different frame around it. It's like a perspective shift.
Yeah, yeah, so
Yeah.
true. And, all of those things that you just mentioned are really allowing a person, to experience the sacredness of ourselves, which we forget about that, right? We forget about the
Yeah.
sacredness of the waters in the earth, and we forget about the sacredness of ourselves. So to really just, yeah, see ourselves as water, as crystalline
Mm.
structure,
As magic,
Yeah,
as sacred, like you say, sacred planet.
yeah.
You are sacred. You are precious. You are holy. There is no one like you. You're an individual snowflake. There will never be another being like you on this earth ever. It's impossible. That's the magic that you are, the uniqueness that you have to bring to the world. And so to approach your life from that place, it makes it so rich and full of miracles and magic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, I heard you speak one time about our tears as
Ah,
crystals. Would you mind saying something about that? It was
I'm
so beautiful.
so happy you reminded me. Thank you. I love tears. I love crying. Oh, so one of my favorite, favorite waters are the tears. And I believe that tears in our culture are completely not just underrated, but when we tell someone not to cry when they're a child, we're actually shutting down their water temple, their body's most authentic way of releasing emotion. So when you think about it, tears are the waters of your body gathering up the emotions that you're feeling, whether that's grief or whether it's ecstasy or you're so touched to the core of your being. It's literally gathering that up and swelling it out of your eyes and raining it outside of you. So it's a way of both releasing emotion when there's so much and of connecting yourself to the outside world. Our tears are sacred. Our tears are our holy inner water flowing out how we see the earth into from inside to outside. It's such special alchemy. And when you actually look at tears under a microscope, there's this woman who did a kind of a tear project like Dr. Emoto did. She took pictures of her happy tears, sad tears,
Wow.
all different kinds. And you could see that they were all different. They were all programmed with the vibration of the emotion that she was feeling. And yeah, one of my favorite ways to release emotion is to cry. And I love to honor my tears by actually licking them off my own cheeks and tasting them and to ingesting that water. And one of the most intimate ways that I love to connect with someone who is crying, who is having a release, is to wipe their tears. And then if I'm aligned with the person, like if it's my lover, I'll actually lick them. And sometimes, like if it really is my beloved, I will lick the tears from their eyes. And to me, it's one of the most precious forms of intimacy. Into me, I see. Intimacy. It's like into me, I see. It's like I'm allowing you to see on a, not just on a mental level or a talking level, but actually on the water encoded molecular level transmission of what's happening inside of my being. So,
So beautiful.
I love tears.
And just so true. It's one of those things that I think everybody listening upon hearing that can think, can realize that's truth, that this water is just a sacred expression of who we are and our emotions, and to allow that to come forth and to honor that in another person.
Mm-hmm.
So important. So
Absolutely.
important. Yeah. Well, I know you want to share a practice or a meditation. I'm not sure what. I'm excited to hear, but I wanted to ask one more thing, and if it overlaps with that, then wonderful. But if someone wanted to make maybe a ritual or create something in their home or in their yard to really honor water, to really just every day
Mm.
place to honor the sacredness of water. Do you have any recommendations about
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for suggesting that. I absolutely believe that it's beautiful for everyone to have a little water altar. And if you have a water purification system, it can be really sweet to have it kind of around your water dispenser.
that? Uh-huh.
So, I mean, I have little water altars everywhere, but actually, one of them you can see right here. It's a golden chalice. And the sacred waters actually, I have to pour them in because they tend to evaporate. But I like to keep this full of waters from the island of Kauai, some of my most sacred favorite places. So, what I would suggest is if you have some favorite places, like very sacred and special areas of water, like whether it's a spot at your favorite river or this special spot at the ocean or at your favorite hot spring, that you go to those places with reverence and with a deep listening, because this is a whole other dimension that is beautiful to touch on, the external waters of the world. There are literally water beings, mermaids, nymphs. I know a lot of people don't believe in those sorts of magic, but when you learn to really listen, the water has messages, and different waters have different purposes and different messages. So go to your favorite water spots, listen, be open, meditate there, allow yourself to become merged with those waters, and ask, always ask if you can bring some home to your water altar. And if you receive an intuitive yes, I have beautiful little blue bottles that I love to collect sacred water in. And it's another thing, find something beautiful to hold your water and, gather a little bit. And then I love to mix them together in a chalice or a goblet. So I actually have some waters right here. This is my chalice that I do morning prayers with. And it's this water is different because I drink it. So the water that you gather is for your altar, and it's a beautiful place to do prayers. And I mean, I have mermaid statues and seashells and crystals, and it's also beautiful if you want to add pictures of dolphins and whales, or ancient sea goddesses like Aphrodite or Oshun, or there's so many different ways that you can bring in the ancient goddess culture into your water altar as well, that I feel adds, it's at least my flavor. As you can see, I love like columns and mystical temple decorations. So anyways, and then with your water altar, this ties in beautifully to the practice that I'm about to share, is prayer. Prayer is one of the most powerful things that we can do for ourselves and the planet at this time. And praying with the water is even better. Like, praying with water is phenomenal because it amplifies. Water is an amplifier. And she also is the bridge between now and the future and the past. She's a timelessness portal. Because think about it, all the water that's on this planet has always been here and will continue to be here. So all the water from, thousands and millions of years ago is still here.
It's the same.
And it's the same water. It's the same water. Literally the same water. So, I mean, that is magic right there. And when you pray with the water, and when you infuse the water with your prayers for yourself and for humanity, and then you drink it, and then you offer some to the earth, you're rippling. It's like throwing a crystal in a pond, and you know how you see the little ripples go out? That's what you're doing with your prayer. It's like you're rippling out this vibration, these prayers, this love, this intention. And it's not small. We might think, oh, prayer, but it's powerful. And it goes down to the power of our words and the vibration. So I love to sing to the water, to pray to the water. And I was feeling like whenever you feel complete with questions, I could just do a little example of a prayer that I might do with water and then show you.
Yeah. Yes, whenever you're ready is wonderful.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I love to pour purified water into my favorite crystal goblet. And I recommend having a sacred vessel that you put it into. It just makes it so much more fun than a regular cup. It adds ritual and ceremony to it. And so I like to do this. I like this to be the first thing that I drink in the morning, like the first thing that I consume before breakfast or anything else. And what you can do, and it doesn't have to be long or fancy, but pour your glass with your purified water. And then if you feel called, you could add whatever you feel inspired for the day. You could add nothing, you could add a couple essential oils, you could put a crystal in it, you could add a little flower, whatever you feel like to infuse your being with, because you're going to drink it. And then once I've infused it with any external things, I have a little stream on my property, and I like to go to the bridge and just stand above the stream and offer my prayer to the waters of this earth and to the waters of my body. And and it just feels so amazing to then drink those prayers. And then and then you also offer some to the earth, and you know that those will be spread out throughout. And since we are all water, we all do feel each other. It unifies us, it unites us. Water can never be like chopped in half or separated. It can never be divided. It always comes back together, and it always finds a way. So, yeah, I would love to just offer a little prayer to this water. And yeah, of course, when you're praying with your water, whatever it is that's most present in your heart, that's another aspect, just really quick, I'd love to touch on is empty presence. And that's something that we really cultivated at the Water Temple is being a chalice, being the water, being a clear mirror for the present moment. So, I didn't plan any of this. It's about being present with what wants to come through. And that's another beautiful aspect of the water. So, and I also love to sing into the water. So often I'll start with that, or toning. Oh. Great Mother, sacred waters of my body, of this earth, holy water that makes all life possible upon this planet, I offer you my deepest gratitude, my deepest love, my deepest joy, my deepest reverence for this opportunity to be alive, to be human, to be upon this planet, to be a being of water and light. I ask that this water would be filled and overflowing with the purest, most crystalline energy of my divine essence. I ask that this water would be illuminated with the highest possible vibration that would be most nourishing for me in this present moment. And I ask that this water would also ripple out into all the other waters of this earth, that this water would be a divine mirror, that this water would also infuse all the water that it touches with the light of pure love, with the highest possibility for humankind's evolution and growth into this golden age of magic and miracles. I ask that this water would flow to all who need it, that the waters upon this earth would again run clean, that the waters upon this earth would be powerful and free, that the waters upon this earth would be able to be what they truly are instead of captured and contained. And I pray this also for the divine feminine and masculine upon this earth, that we will allow the Shakti, the free-flowing waters of our beings in our wombs, to again move through life in the fluid presence that is our birthright. Mahalo Keakua to the sacred waters of this island, Mama Kauai. To all the water spots that I know and love in my heart, I send you so much love and gratitude. And to this whole earth, I offer this water, dedication and consecration to harmony and unity for all of life. Mahalo Keakua, Mahalo Keakua, Mahalo Keakua. The water feels and tastes so much better when you pray with it.
So beautiful. Thank you.
It's literally medicine. So if you need extra kindness one day or extra patience one day, infuse your water with whatever you need. She will provide. She's your friend. She is you. And I saved a little bit. I'm going to go offer it to the stream on my property when we're finished.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much. It was so powerful, and I just want to say I want to incorporate that into my daily practice because it feels so powerful. And I encourage anyone listening who is inspired to do so to do the same. Because I have no doubt that if thousands and thousands of us are starting out our day in that way, it will make a real difference.
Yes, it will change the world.
It will change the world, yes. And this aspect of giving some of that water that's been prayed over back to Mother Earth, back to a body of water in nature is a huge part of that, to reestablish that connection.
Yeah, we are the earth.
Yes.
Yeah. And just encouraging you that it can be simple. It doesn't have to be that long or fancy. Literally just be a quiet, silent thank you.
Yes. Right. Whatever is right for each individual person.
At each individual moment.
Yeah.
This has been so much fun, Jocelyn.
Yes. Thank you so much. This has been just wonderful talking with you and learning. So thank you for sharing all of this. I know there's a free gift that you want to share with the audience, a free ebook on the magic of water, I think you mentioned. So if you would like to say a few more words about that, please do go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, it's I'm going to be offering a free ebook, like Jocelyn said, and it's really going to be diving into We Are Water and going into what I've already shared, but more practices and suggestions. Oh, low battery. There we go. And more suggestions for connecting with the water and with yourself. And if you really feel called to this, if the way of the water resonates within you, I encourage you to receive that. And then I'll also be hosting a kind of free video series on the magic of water as well that will be being released actually around the time this interview is. So I can include a link to that as well. And it's going to be super magical. We'll dive in really deep around sexuality and water and just lots of mysticism.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, so everybody who's watching, you can find the link to the free gifts and to any other offerings that Dakota wants to share right below this interview. So just scroll down a little bit and you'll see it there and you'll be able to click right to that. Well, thank
Mm.
you so much once again. This has been just magical.
Mm.
So
It's
thank
been
you.
such a joy, Jocelyn. Thank you for creating this beautiful platform for us to come together and to share wisdom with each other, because we all have such unique pieces of the magical tapestry of life.
Yes, yes, yeah. And I think this water, we are water, is just so perfectly relevant to remembering the truth of who we are. Yeah,
I absolutely agree with you.
yeah,
It's been biggest key in my life. So
yeah. Well, thank you
yeah.
again, and I hope you have an
You're
absolutely
welcome.
wonderful day.
You too. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mahalo.